Welcome to Behind the Wire, the official podcast of Pee Dee Electric. Each episode connects you to the people, stories, and innovations powering our communities. From exclusive conversations with cooperative leaders to practical tips that help save money and energy, we're here to keep you informed and inspired. Behind the Wire is your on-demand source for cooperative insight that keeps us moving forward together. Let's get started. Hey, this is David Spencer, your favorite communication specialist, and you are listening to Behind the Wire, where energy meets community. And today we have a special guest with us, Miss Meredith Howell. Miss Meredith, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, and we're glad to have you. You've had some great experiences with our Bright Ideas program, and we're getting ready to relaunch and start accepting applications. And so we're just excited to kind of share a little bit about the program and your experience with it, and in hopes that some more teachers will give us a shot and we can partner with them to bring some great experiences to their classroom.
Wonderful.
Good. So let's just dive right on in. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the school where you teach.
Okay. So I teach at South Sterling High School. I've been teaching English language arts for 21 years. I'm old. But I've been teaching everything, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. I teach AP Lang, and I also teach Holocaust literature. Couldn't imagine myself anywhere else. So it's been a great fit for me for my career.
Well, I'm excited about just teaching. My wife's an educator. She's a principal now, but she started off in the classroom, and I'm always just in awe of the work that you guys do and the impact that you make on the communities. And so it's definitely a great profession. Takes a lot of effort, and it's great work, but you have to be the right person. And so we're just glad that you're, been able to do it that long and continue to make impacts in our communities.
Thank you.
Let's describe the projects you received Bright Ideas grants for.
So this is my third Bright Ideas grant. This past year was. The first one was a colleague of mine. We came together to publish a book for our senior class. Students did writings, and then we published. It was kind of like a yearbook, but they did writings individually. So that was the first Bright Ideas grant. The second Bright Ideas grant is a shoe project that I did for my Holocaust literature class, where students researched upstanders or survivors of the Holocaust and then put the Holocaust journeys for those upstanders or survivors on shoes to tell the story in a way that makes the learning more public, not just for what they had learned, but for other people to come and see that. And then this past year, we took that to the next step, and my students did a Holocaust commemoration ceremony for our entire community. So it was kind of a culminating event for our entire class, where they showcased their learning, made speeches in public, and invited the community to come and learn about the work that we've been doing and why it's important.
I love it. And I do like that you mentioned that you got 3, because that's a question we get sometimes when people win, can I apply again? And we don't have a limit on that. And so if you got a good idea and you think it's worth applying, we definitely encourage and like to see when people come back and we're able to award those grants at different times.
Absolutely, yes.
How did you first hear about the Bright Ideas grant program?
So I feel like I had known about it for, maybe since long time ago. And I was like, that's a lot of work. But then my colleague, she was like, let's go and let's try for this. And she encouraged me. And we found out that if we were passionate about it and we put our work into it, it really wasn't that much hard work at all. Obviously, you've got to take your idea and then, put it on paper. But if you've got the idea, you've got everything you need to apply. So I owe that to Miss Hedrick next door. She was the one who said, let's do it. And so we did it. So it was good that we had worked together to begin with, because I don't know, as a younger teacher, if I would have taken the initiative to do that myself if it was overwhelming to me. But having a colleague there who really encouraged me, that was really good.
That makes sense. And so, we come out to the schools and we make a big hoo-ha about it. We come in, and a lot of times the teachers are with their students or with their colleagues when we announce that they got the grant. And it's usually a big deal. And so walk us through the moment when you first found out that you received the grant.
Well, I guess this year I was hoping, and I knew that if they were going to do it, when they were going to come in the evening. They were going to come in the afternoon. I just had a feeling if I was going to get it. But the years before, I think I was so overwhelmed with joy that the only words I could get out of were, I'm so excited, I'm so excited, I'm so excited. And so my students were like, what is going on? They were completely taken aback by the fact that people had walked into the room with balloons and a big sign, and they were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I won a grant. We're going to have great things in the class. And so, but anyways, it's a wonderful day of celebration because you realize what you had in your head gets to finally come to fruition. And that's the start of you know what you're going to do. So now you have the funds to do it and you go about it. So it's just a moment of pure excitement. I feel like it was a moment of pure excitement. And the students, they were just like, yay, Miss Howe. So it's a really big moment of celebration.
Oh, yeah. And in those moments, too, you can really see the relationship with the students come through, too, because a lot of them don't really fully understand what's going on, but you're excited and they're excited for you. And so it's just really a good moment to share and to see that interaction between you and the kids. Mm-hmm. So how did the grant help bring your idea to life?
Okay. So in the public school setting, funds are extremely limited. If we want to do anything above and beyond pretty much what we already have, if it asks us to go and get materials, we're going to have to get those ourselves. So this allowed me to think outside the box, to think, I need this, 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 and this in order to make this final project come to fruition. And so for this year's commemoration, I was able to buy more resources for the shoes, which we ultimately had on display at the commemoration. We were able to procure artwork materials to make the displays that we had at the commemoration. We were able to work with a local printing company to do the banners, which we can now use from year to year at our Holocaust commemoration ceremony. So it's gonna add to where we can use it for multiple years, not just this one year. And I was able to provide light refreshments, where before, if we wanted light refreshments, I didn't have the money to do that. And so it was more of a community atmosphere because I was able to make it run like a real commemoration should run. So, yeah.
I like it. And you mentioned, this gives you an opportunity to think outside the box, and I think this is wonderful. That's what we want to hear, because we, there's the regular day-to-day, but we really want to see those outlandish, if you will, different type of projects that you normally don't get to do. And so definitely sound like you've done that. Can you describe what the project looked like in action in the classroom? Yeah,
so it kind of formulated from this idea that in my Holocaust literature class, we study memorials, and specifically memorials around the world, not just Holocaust related, but we study what memorials are and why memorials are there. And then we relate that to Holocaust learning. And one of the ways that people can memorialize things are through live action. And so what we mean by that is literally holding a commemoration ceremony.
Okay.
And so in essence, we created our own memorial. So in knowing it was a culminating aspect, we hosted the Holocaust commemoration at our school, but we had so much planning beforehand. We, throughout the semester, were leading to this, but they presented their learning at the commemoration. My students got up and made speeches of everything that they had learned and experienced. Specifically, our trip to the Women of the Shoah Monument in Greensboro. A student spoke about that. We created found poetry commemorating the lives of those who were lost at the hands of the Einsatzgruppen. We were able to talk, one of my students spoke about that. We visited the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum this past year in Washington, D.C., and one of my students spoke about that. We also hosted Heather Doom McAdam, who was an author of one of the books that we read in class. One of my students spoke about that. We also hosted first and second generation Holocaust survivors. Another student spoke about that. And so ultimately we were doing the learning all along, but we were able, because of the Bright Ideas Grant, we were able to bring it all together so that the community could see what we had learned. So without the idea, the Bright Ideas Grant, we wouldn't have had that commemoration to bring that not only together, but for the community to learn about it. And then afterwards, we had a keynote speaker from Queens College came and gave the keynote speech about Holocaust education. So we were able to invite her in. And then after all of that, after we dismissed, we actually went out into the hallways where all of the exhibits were. So the shoe projects that we had created, because we had the materials, so we had done that. And then we also had our displays. We also had the Blue Square initiative, which is standing up against hate. And we were able to procure that to give that out to our community members. So ultimately, all of the learning along and the resources we needed, it came together in the commemoration, which was, like I said, a result of having the grant money to do so.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I love that. This really sounds like a class that I would like to take. And I've been in classes where, you just kind of read and then regurgitate the information. But this seems like you've really taken it off the page and really given them some experiences that they can take.
Well, that's actually where the idea for the project came from. I've had so many people in our community come up to me and said, Ms. Howell, I really wish that we had that class when I was in high school.
Right.
Or people in the community who, like parents, they were like, I wish I could come and sit in your class. And so we use that. We can't have this class for everybody, but we can offer a night where we can show you what we are learning and give you a little bit of idea of what we are doing. So that's partially what spawned the idea.
I like it. So what changes do you notice in student engagement or their excitement during the project?
At first, to be quite honest, they are scared. They were scared. I was like, we're going to do this commemoration and we're going to show everything we learned to the community. And they're like, oh, no. I had students at the beginning of the semester who were not wanting to speak in class, let alone in front of a whole community. But to see the change from the beginning of the semester to the end, they learned they were put in these situations where they felt confident because they knew what they were learning. And then that anxiety turned into a moment where they're like, oh, my gosh, I just showed my learning to the rest of our community, and I know what I'm talking about. So the anxiety turns into excitement. And then afterwards, I always, before we started the commemoration, I said, remember why you're doing this. You're not doing this for you. You're doing it for the people who lost their lives and the people who went out of their way to make sure that they did right in the Holocaust. And so understanding that, they then are proud of what they did, but they know that they did it for the right reason. So it's a plethora of emotions, but ultimately, I feel like my students do it for the right reason. So
cool. And so now you mentioned their response, but do you have a favorite moment or story from when the project was happening?
Yeah. So after the ceremony was over, and all of the community was in the hallways. Some were looking at the shoe project, some were looking at the panels to learn about survivors, some were looking at the artwork displays, some were looking at the poetry, some were looking, some were eating food. The guest speaker from Queens came up to me, and she looked me in the eyes and she said, "Your students are amazing." That was my favorite moment because it meant that what we had done was worth it.
Oh, yeah.
They were not doing this for a grade. They were doing it because they were legitimately genuine about what they had learned and conveying that to the community. And so I'm so glad that it literally, everything came together at that moment. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, kudos to you. We may have a few teachers listening in, and so we want to discuss how does this project support the learning goals for your students?
So with Holocaust literature, my learning goals aren't necessarily set out by the state of North Carolina to be like ELA goals. They are there. It's just a little different. But I feel like even though they're learning about the Holocaust, some of the more specific goals that they learned are the ones that we don't necessarily get to teach in all of our other classes. Pretty much they get to research, showcase their research, but public speaking was the biggest skill I feel like that those students rose to the occasion with. They were able to create the exhibits, but then understand how do you put this out there so it's not just a homework assignment you turned in. So how do you display that for everybody else? And students who might not have spoke during the ceremony were in the hallways giving small little speeches to the community members who were asking questions about what they were looking at. And so just the interaction with the community and just conveying their learning was one of the biggest skills that I think that they'll take from this. And ultimately, they realized they had powerful voices. And that they can make a change. All semester long, we had learned what upstanders were and how do you resist evil? How do you resist the bad guys? And one of the ways you can do that is you can bring something positive or you can educate. And my students, like 2 days afterwards, they were like, "Miss Howell, we're upstanders, aren't we?" I was like, "Yes, you are." So,
wow. And I love it too. And what I think about too, because I'm working on some studying right now. And with AI, just regurgitate a paper, it's so easy to do that. But what you're doing is you're having to stand up and really show me that you've grasped the concept and that you got the message and you're able to articulate it.
Absolutely.
And I talk to my wife all the time, like with AI. Just educators gotta push themselves now. How do you really assess the students? Because just having them write a paper and turn it in, they can. There's so much ways to do that now, and get just AI assistant or get pull it offline and make it look like it's yours. But having to get up and really just show that I got it is going to be critical, I think, in just education going forward. So,
Absolutely.
So I love what you're doing there. What impact do programs like Bright Ideas have on teachers?
I think that this program is wonderful because teachers don't have funds. They don't have financial support to do big projects like this. And to know that a corporation, a company, partners with educators to promote that creative thinking, that's amazing. I feel like when I look back on my career, I'm going to remember this commemoration. I am going to remember it for many, many years. My students are going to remember it for many years. They're going to remember their shoe projects that are now, some of those shoe projects that they've created are on display in a museum in North Carolina because they're now leaving their mark in more than one place. And so just having that, knowing that it has the opportunity to make those big impacts, it's immeasurable.
Yeah, and I love it too. But all 26 cooperatives in North Carolina has a version of the Bright Ideas program, and so it's really impacting the state in a very positive manner. And just seeing how teachers across the state are using these funds to bring these projects to life has been very rewarding for us. And so I'm excited. Every year we pull you guys in for our reception and get to talk to you and learn a little bit more about what you're doing. And it's always just a heartwarming opportunity to see the impact that we're able to make by collaborating with you all.
I agree.
And you kind of touched on this, but I want to just ask it. How do your students benefit beyond the lesson itself?
I think that all of these projects that I've done have given the students the opportunity to move beyond getting a grade. So they've been able to bridge the gap between just learning in the classroom and learning for themselves. And it moves them into not only learning for themselves, but understanding what it means in the real world and what impact that they can make. So that's what these projects have all given them, the power to move beyond just learning for them, moving beyond the grade that they're going to get, moving it to the real world and seeing impact.
Oh, yeah, and that skill is definitely transferable because even if you go straight to the workforce, you go to military or continue education, being able to research and be self-motivated to get information that you need and find it and then synthesize it in a way that is applicable to what you're trying to accomplish is just a skill that's going to take them far. So
Absolutely.
Great work with that. Why is community support from organizations like Pee Dee Electric so important for our local schools?
I am an advocate of public education. I've been in public education for 21 years, but I couldn't do projects like this with just the public school help. It's impossible. There's no way I could afford to do what I've done with my Bright Ideas grants on my own. So it is essential that there are outside companies like Pee Dee Electric or any cooperative for that matter, that are willing to step in and say, hey, what do you want to do? Let's make it happen. It would be impossible otherwise. So.
All right, and if we have any business owners or other corporations, we challenge you to get involved and to see what you can do. I hope this is really shedding some light on. We have some capable teachers that want to do some bigger and just brighter things. And if we give them the tools and support where we can, I think they're going to be able to do some amazing things with that opportunity. So
yes.
Definitely as leaders in the community, we have to push ourselves to make these type of things available. What advice would you give to other teachers thinking about applying for a Bright Ideas grant?
Do it. And if you're scared, get somebody to do the project with you the first time, and you can win multiple times. But just give it a try. If you have an idea, don't let the fear of not having the resources get in the way. Because even if I didn't get the grant this year, I was going to do the commemoration. It would not have been on the scale that I wanted to do it, but I would have done a very small version of it. The fact that I got the grant allowed me to take it to the next level. Right. It made it actually feel like a veritable, worthwhile, like this is a big deal commemoration. Whereas if I had done it on my own, it would have been good, but I wouldn't have been able to put all of the extra stuff into it because I wouldn't have had the funds to do so. So my advice to teachers is try it. If you're scared, get somebody to do it with you because two minds are often better than one. And then once you've got the idea, go with it. And even if you don't get it, think, okay, well, I'm going to try it on a small scale this year. Next year, when I fill out my application, I now know what I would say to make it even a brighter idea. So that's my advice.
Oh, yeah. And I think the process, we've tried, and we across the state, I know even when we meet with our other counterparts at other cooperatives, we try to make sure the process isn't scary at all because the Bright Ideas was really just birthed out of the founder saw a teacher in the store buying stuff. She's like, what can we do to be helpful? And so our goal isn't to make the submission process, strenuous. It's really just, what's your idea? We want to hear about it and see what we can do to help. And so I encourage teachers to do it. And when we get a lot of applications, and I know like this year, the margins were very close. And so even if you don't get it this year, reapply.
Absolutely. So, please reapply
next
year.
Just reapply and just keep being a part of the process because we legitimately want to help. And so I think that's a big thing that we hope comes through in that process too. And then we're about to wrap up. I know you've had 3, and you don't got to give away your secret, give away your thunder. But if you had the opportunity, and hopefully you're applying again, what kind of project you think you're going to dream up next?
So I want to continue along the idea of community outreach. So oftentimes students understand what they can, like I said before, do to get their grade, but they don't know how does that impact other people. And so something along the lines of community service is what I want to do. So not just doing we're going to continue the commemoration. Okay. It was a wonderful thing, and we now have the resources to be able to continue it from year to year in a reputable way. But students doing self-selected service projects. And the grant funds would be used to fund individual service projects for students based off of where they feel led to be upstanders, leaders in the community, hopefully doing some kind of community outreach to where, yes, we're learning about the Holocaust specifically for this class, but that doesn't mean that I can't go to my local elementary school and just show what it means to be a good leader as a teenager, because that's where you develop those skills between good and evil. You're doing something good for the community. And during the Holocaust, if more people had done good for the community, it wouldn't have happened.
Good.
I don't know if that gave away too much, but that's where I would go with it.
That's a good teaser. You didn't give us the specifics, but we know where you're headed. And so we appreciate you sharing. Any last words you want to leave before we wrap up?
Our district superintendent, Dr. Dennis, and my principal, Ms. Fallen, are so grateful that the electric cooperatives have this program to support our teachers. I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to do 3 Bright Ideas grants. And like I said, I'm going to look back on this for many, many years. And the things that I've done with the grant are things that are going to stand out to me as major milestones, not from my career, but in looking at students and what they're taking from their education. I think they're going to remember them for a very, very long time.
Oh, yeah, and I can just see it now. Years to come, you're going to be at the grocery store and somebody's going to say, I remember when, and that left a lasting impact on me. And look what I'm doing now, and it started with how you touched them and planted that seed in the classroom. So I'm excited to see how this all grows in the years to come. So again, this is David Spencer, and you're listening to Behind the Wire, Pee Dee Electric's new podcast where energy meets community. And we're just excited that we got to spend some time today with Meredith Howell, 3-time Bright Ideas recipient. And so we're just grateful for the opportunity to share with you, to listen to you, and then for you to inform our members and our stakeholders about how this program works and the impact that it's having in the classroom. And so again, just congratulations to you, and we look forward to seeing what bright ideas you come up with in the future.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thanks for joining us Behind the Wire. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow and share the podcast so others can plug in too. For news, tips, and updates, visit pdemc.com and follow us on social media. Until next time, stay safe, stay connected, and we'll see you behind the wire.